I am Evelyn Carter, 29 years old. 6 months ago, I lost my house, and when I asked my parents for help, they said something to me that I will never forget for the rest of my life. That night, my apartment burned down. I lost 7 years of memories in a matter of hours. When I called my parents, desperate and broken, my stepfather said 5 words I'll never forget. Not our problem. Be more careful. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part came a week later when the insurance company told me my parents had been listed as the sole beneficiaries on my policy, a policy I never signed. And 3 days after that, a fire investigator asked me one simple question that changed everything. Who had access to your apartment last week? I knew the answer. My mother had visited, for the first time in 2 years. Before I continue, please like and subscribe, but only if this story truly resonates with you. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from tonight and what time is it there? Now, let me take you back to the night everything changed. February 12th, 3:17 in the morning. The smoke alarm screamed at 3:17 a.m. I jerked awake to darkness so thick I could taste it. Acrid, chemical, wrong. My lungs burned before my brain caught up. Fire. I didn't think. Couldn't think. My hand found my phone on the nightstand, and I ran. Barefoot, pajamas, nothing else. The hallway was a tunnel of black smoke lit orange from somewhere below. I hit the stairwell door so hard my shoulder would bruise for weeks. 4 flights down, each step a prayer, each breath a knife. When I burst onto the sidewalk, the February air hit me like a slap. I stood there shivering in my thin cotton pajamas, watching flames lick out of my 4th-floor window. Unit 4B, my home. A firefighter approached me, his face grim beneath his helmet. "Ma'am, are you the resident?" I nodded. Couldn't speak. "I'm sorry." He didn't look away. "Everything in that unit is gone." Gone. The word didn't make sense. 7 years of my life were in that apartment. Photos of my grandparents, the only ones I had. The guitar my late stepfather had given me when I was 16. My college diploma. My laptop with every project, every memory, every piece of who I'd become since leaving home. All of it. Smoke and ash. I sank onto the curb, still clutching my phone. The screen showed 3:47 a.m. Around me, neighbors gathered in robes and slippers murmuring. Someone draped a blanket over my shoulders. I don't remember who. My hands shook as I pulled up my contacts. Mom, Dad. They would know what to do. They would come. I pressed call. The phone rang. And rang. And rang. 8 rings before she picked up. "Evelyn?" My mother's voice was thick with sleep. And something else. Annoyance. "Do you know what time it is?" "Mom." My voice cracked. "There was a fire. My apartment. Mom, I lost everything. I don't have anywhere to go. I don't." "Oh." A pause. Long. Empty. "That's unfortunate." Unfortunate. Like I'd spilled coffee on my shirt. I heard rustling, then my stepfather Richard's voice in the background. Patricia handed him the phone. "Evelyn, what's going on?" I told him again. The fire, the smoke, standing on the sidewalk with nothing but my phone and the clothes on my back. I was crying now, I realized. Couldn't stop. His response came flat, final. "This isn't our problem, Evelyn. You should have been more careful. You're an adult now." The line went dead. I sat there for a long time, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to silence. The firefighters kept working. Neighbors drifted back inside. The sun started to rise, painting the smoke a sickly orange. My parents hadn't asked if I was hurt, hadn't offered to come, hadn't said they loved me. Not our problem. As the shock slowly hardened into something else, a memory surfaced. My mother, standing in my apartment 5 days ago. Her first visit in 2 years. She'd shown up unannounced, said she missed me, walked through every room, touching things, asking questions. At the time, I'd been happy. Grateful even. Now, sitting on that curb wrapped in a stranger's blanket, I wondered, why had she really come? I pushed the thought away. It was crazy, paranoid, but the question wouldn't leave me alone. Jason Park saved me that first week. My coworker had a spare room and a kind heart. He didn't ask questions when I showed up at his door at 6 a.m. with ash in my hair and nothing but my phone, just handed me a cup of coffee and said, "Stay as long as you need." 3 days later, I finally felt human enough to deal with the insurance. I called my renter's insurance company, expecting the usual bureaucracy, claim forms, waiting periods. But the customer service rep, Greg according to his flat Midwestern voice, asked a question that made me pause. "Ms. Carter, can you confirm your relationship with Richard and Patricia Carter?" I blinked at my borrowed laptop screen. "They're my parents, my mother and stepfather. Why?" Silence. Too long. "Ms. Carter, I think you need to come to our office. There's something you should see." "Can't you just tell me over the phone?" "I really think—" He cleared his throat. "It would be better in person." I made an appointment for the next morning. After I hung up, I sat staring at the wall for a long time. Jason found me like that when he got home from work. "Evelyn, you okay?" "The insurance company wants me to come in, something about my parents." "Your parents? What do they have to do with your insurance?" "I don't know." I met his eyes. "But the guy mentioned something about a beneficiary designation form dated 6 months ago." Jason frowned. "Beneficiary? On renter's insurance? That's weird." "Yeah." I hugged my knees to my chest. "That's what I thought too." That night, I barely slept. Something was wrong. I could feel it. I just didn't know how wrong. The insurance office smelled like stale coffee and bad news. Greg was younger than he'd sounded, maybe 30, with apologetic eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He led me to a small conference room and closed the door. "Ms. Carter, I want to start by saying I'm very sorry about your loss." "Thank you, but you didn't bring me here for condolences." He sighed, slid a folder across the table. I opened it. My policy. Standard stuff. My name as the insured, coverage amounts, effective dates. Then I turned to the last page. Beneficiary designation, Richard Carter, Patricia Carter, 100%. The room tilted. "This is a mistake," I heard myself say. "I never signed this. I would never—" "Ms. Carter." Greg pointed to the bottom of the page. "That's your signature." I looked. It did look like my signature. The same loops, the same slant, but I knew. I had never held this pen, never seen this document. "This form was submitted 6 months ago," Greg continued quietly. "The original policy had you listed as your own beneficiary, as is standard. Someone changed it." 6 months ago. "And the payout amount?" $150,000. He paused. "Ms. Carter, there's something else. A fire investigator called us this morning. He's been asking about this policy." My hands were shaking. I pressed them flat against the table. Why would a fire investigator care about my insurance beneficiaries? Greg held my gaze. "I think you know why." I did know. The answer was sitting in my chest like a stone, but I couldn't say it out loud, not yet. Someone had forged my signature, changed my beneficiaries, and 5 days before my apartment burned down, my mother had visited for the first time in 2 years. Coincidence. I didn't believe in those anymore. Marcus Webb looked exactly like what a fire investigator should look like: weathered face, sharp eyes, and a handshake that meant business. We met at a coffee shop 3 blocks from the insurance office, neutral ground. "Miss Carter," he set down his cup, "I'll be direct with you. I don't think your fire was an accident." The words hung between us. "What makes you say that?" "Fire patterns." He pulled out his phone, showed me photos I didn't want to see. My bedroom, charred black. "See this? The point of origin is here, near the outlet behind your dresser, but there's no evidence of electrical failure, no frayed wires, no surge damage." "What does that mean?" "It means someone helped that fire along." He put his phone away. "I've been doing this for 22 years. I know what accidental looks like. This isn't it." I wrapped my hands around my coffee cup, needing the warmth. "So what happens now?" "Now I ask questions." His eyes met mine. "Who had access to your apartment in the week before the fire?" My heart stopped, then started again, too fast. "I had a visitor, 5 days before." "Who?" I made myself say it. "My mother." Marcus didn't react. just nodded slowly, like a puzzle piece clicking into place. I checked the building's entry logs. Electronic locks, they keep records. Only 2 people accessed your unit that week. You. And a woman matching your mother's description. I couldn't speak. Miss Carter, I'm not accusing anyone of anything. Yet. He leaned forward. But I need you to understand, this investigation is active. If there's anything else you know, anything at all, now's the time. I thought about the insurance form, the forged signature, the $150,000. There might be, I said. Something else. That night, I called my mother. I kept my voice light, casual, nothing wrong here. Mom, I just wanted to thank you for visiting last week. It meant a lot. A pause. When she spoke, her tone was careful. Oh, yes, I missed you, sweetie. It had been too long. It really had. I picked at a thread on Jason's couch. Hey, quick question. Did you notice anything weird in my apartment? Anything off? The fire investigator keeps asking. Fire investigator? Her voice sharpened. Why would they investigate? Apparently, they think it might not be an accident. Silence. I counted the seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Evelyn. Her tone had changed completely now. Cold. Controlled. Don't talk to those investigators without a lawyer. They twist your words. Why would I need a lawyer, Mom? I'm the victim here. I'm just trying to protect you. From what? Another long pause. In the background, I heard Richard's voice, muffled, asking something. I have to go, Patricia said abruptly. Your father needs me. Stepfather. What? Richard is my stepfather, not my father. The line went dead. I stared at my phone. My hands weren't shaking anymore. That surprised me. Something had shifted in the last few days. The grief was still there. For my apartment, my things, the life I'd built. But underneath it, something harder was forming. Clarity. Her advice hadn't been about protecting me. It was about protecting herself. I texted Marcus Webb. We need to talk. I have more information. His reply came in seconds. Tomorrow. 9 a.m. Same place. I didn't sleep that night either. But this time, it wasn't fear keeping me awake. It was the beginning of a plan. The call started the next morning. Aunt Margaret was first. My mother's younger sister. The one who always sent birthday cards, always remembered. Honey. Her voice dripped with concern. Your mom called me last night. She's so worried about you. Worried about what? Well? A delicate pause. She said you've been saying some strange things. About the fire. About her. I sat up straighter. I haven't told anyone anything. Evelyn, sweetheart, it's okay to struggle. What you went through, losing everything like that, anyone would have trouble coping. My stomach turned cold. What exactly did she tell you? Just that you're under a lot of stress. Maybe having some kind of breakdown. Margaret's voice softened. She's worried you might say things you don't mean. Crazy things. Crazy. There it was. I'm not crazy, Aunt Margaret. No one's saying you are, honey. We're just... Did she email the whole family? Or just call? Silence. That was answer enough. Get some rest, sweetheart, Margaret said finally. We're all praying for you. She hung up before I could respond. I immediately checked my email. Nothing from family. But there was one from HR at my company, marked urgent. The timestamp showed it had arrived 2 days ago. I'd been so focused on the insurance nightmare that I'd missed it entirely. My blood ran cold as I read it. We received an anonymous call expressing concern about your mental state following recent personal trauma. While we support all employees through difficult times, we need to schedule a meeting to discuss your current fitness for work. I read it twice, 3 times. She wasn't just trying to steal my money, she was trying to steal my credibility, my job, my life. Before I could even speak, she was making sure no one would believe me. The anger that rose in my chest was unlike anything I'd ever felt. Cold, clear, deadly calm. Game on, Mom. Marcus Webb raised an eyebrow when I told him about the HR email. That's a bold move, he said. Discrediting you before you can talk. It means she's scared. It means she's strategic. He tapped his pen against his notebook. We need something concrete, something she can't explain away. That's when I remembered. The building, I said slowly. They installed new security cameras 2 months ago, in all the hallways. Marcus was already pulling out his phone. What's your building manager's name? 20 minutes later, we were sitting in Mr. Henderson's cramped office, watching footage on a small monitor. Here, Henderson pointed at the screen. February 7th. That's the day you mentioned. I watched my mother walk down the 4th-floor hallway. She carried a large black bag, the kind you'd use for a gym or an overnight trip. She glanced around before entering my apartment. The timestamp read 2:07 p.m. Henderson fast-forwarded. My mother emerged at 5:12 p.m. 3 hours. She'd told me she only stopped by for 30 minutes. But that wasn't the worst part. Wait, I leaned forward. Where's the bag? We watched again. She walked in carrying the bag. She walked out empty-handed. Can you check the other cameras? Marcus asked. Stairwells? Parking garage? Henderson nodded and started clicking. We found it on the service entrance camera. Patricia, walking to her car at 5:15 p.m. No bag. She hadn't taken it out that way either. She left it in my apartment, I said quietly. Marcus made a note. That bag is key. Fire investigators found something suspicious near the outlet, still being analyzed at the lab, but if we can prove what she brought in. The 3-hour visit, the missing bag, the suspicious fire origin. Finally, we had a direction. Diana Reeves was exactly what I needed. A lawyer who specialized in insurance fraud and didn't believe in sugarcoating. This signature is good. She held the beneficiary form up to the light in her downtown office. Professional even, but not perfect. What do you mean? She pulled out a magnifying glass. Old school, but effective. See these points here? And here? She traced invisible lines on the paper. Hesitation marks. When someone forges a signature, they naturally slow down at certain points, trying to get it right. Your real signature is fluid. You've been signing your name for years. This one has at least 3 places where the pen paused. Hope flickered in my chest. So you can prove it's fake? I can hire a forensic document examiner who can prove it's fake. Diana set the paper down. What's more interesting is the submission method. This form wasn't mailed in. It was submitted directly at the insurance office. Meaning someone walked in pretending to be me. Or claiming to represent you. Diana pulled out another document. I've already requested the visitor logs for that date, and I spoke with the clerk who processed this form. My heart rate spiked. What did they say? He remembers a woman, middle-aged, brown hair, said she was handling paperwork for her daughter who was too busy with work. Diana's smile was sharp. Does that description ring any bells? Brown hair. My mother had been dyeing her gray for years. Can he identify her in a lineup? He's willing to try. Diana gathered the papers. Between the security footage, the signature analysis, and a potential eyewitness, your mother may have outsmarted herself. I let out a breath I hadn't known I was holding. What do we do now? Now? We wait for her to make another move. We didn't have to wait long. The invitation came 3 days later. My mother's voice on the phone was honey-sweet, a tone I recognized from childhood, the one she used when she wanted something. Evelyn, honey, the family's been so worried about you. I'm hosting a little gathering this Sunday. Nothing fancy, just people who love you, coming together to show support after everything you've been through. I almost laughed. Almost. A gathering? At our house, around 2 o'clock. Uncle Thomas, Aunt Margaret, the cousins. Everyone wants to see you. Make sure you're okay. Make sure I'm the crazy one, she meant. Make sure everyone sees poor, unstable Evelyn before she can say anything damaging. I'll be there, I said. Really? She couldn't quite hide her surprise. That's wonderful, sweetheart. It'll be so good for you to be around family. I hung up and immediately called Marcus. Don't confront her, he warned. We need more time. The warrant's being processed, but these things take days. I won't confront her, but I need to be there when the truth comes out. He was silent for a moment. Fine, but be careful, and I'll be there within 30 minutes of your signal. Next, I called Diana. How's the witness identification coming? Done. I could hear the satisfaction in her voice. He picked your mother out of a 6-photo lineup. No hesitation. Finally, I texted Jason. Remember that favor I mentioned? About cloud backups and subpoenas? His reply was immediate. Already on it. Legal process takes time, but I found something interesting. Call me. I looked at my phone. 3 allies, a witness, video footage, and a family gathering where my mother planned to prove I was crazy. She thought she was setting a trap. She didn't know she was walking into one. My parents' house looked exactly as I remembered. White siding, manicured lawn, American flag by the door. The picture of suburban respectability. I parked on the street and sat in my borrowed car for a long moment, steadying my breath. 15 people. That's how many cars lined the driveway. 15 witnesses to whatever my mother had planned. The door opened before I could knock. Patricia stood there in her Sunday best, cream blouse, pearl earrings, concerned maternal expression perfectly in place. Evelyn! She pulled me into a hug, holding on too long, too tight. Her voice carried for the audience behind her. My poor baby, I've been so worried about you. Over her shoulder, I saw them. Aunt Margaret, Uncle Thomas, cousins Brian and Michelle. Faces I'd known my whole life, all watching me with the same expression. Pity. Careful, calibrated pity. She'd done her work well. Come in, come in. Patricia kept an arm around me, guiding me into the living room like I might break. Everyone's here for you. The room fell quiet as we entered. I scanned the faces. Richard stood in the corner by the fireplace, avoiding my eyes, phone clutched in his hand. Aunt Margaret approached first. Honey, she took my hands in hers. Your mom's told us what you've been going through. It's okay to not be okay. The stress of losing everything like that, Cousin Brian added from the couch. Anyone would struggle. Maybe talking to someone would help, Michelle suggested gently. A professional? I looked around the room at my family, people who'd known me since birth, and saw not a single person who believed I might be telling the truth. Not yet, but that was about to change. Patricia waited until everyone had drinks in hand. Then she cleared her throat. I want to thank you all for coming. Her voice trembled, perfectly rehearsed. As you know, Evelyn's been through something terrible, and in times like these, family needs to come together. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. But I also need to address... She paused, dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. The elephant in the room. I stayed perfectly still. My daughter has been saying some very troubling things lately. Patricia's gaze swept the room, landing briefly on each sympathetic face. About me, about her father, about the fire. Richard flinched at the word father. He still wouldn't look at me. She thinks we... Patricia's voice broke. Oscar-worthy. She thinks we had something to do with what happened to her apartment, her own parents. Gasps, shocked whispers. Patricia, no, Aunt Margaret breathed. I know she's hurting. Tears now, rolling down her cheeks. I know she lost everything. But to accuse us of something so horrible... Richard stepped forward, placed a hand on her shoulder. His voice was flat. Our daughter is clearly not well. We love her, but we can't enable these delusions. The room's attention shifted to me, waiting for the denial, the breakdown, the proof that poor Evelyn had finally snapped. I said nothing. My hands stayed relaxed at my sides, my expression neutral. Let them watch. Let them remember this moment. My silence, her performance. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Marcus. Got the full footage. You need to see this. Now. I stood. Excuse me, I said calmly. I need some air. And I walked out the front door, leaving my mother mid-performance, her audience waiting for an act that wasn't coming. Not yet. Okay, I need to pause here for just a second. If my mother's performance is making your blood boil as much as mine was in that moment, drop a comment with the word busted. Because what happens next? Let's just say she really should have checked whether her daughter's building had security cameras before visiting. Like and subscribe if you want to see how this ends. Trust me, you do. Now back to the story. Marcus was parked 2 houses down. I slid into the passenger seat, heart pounding. What did you find? He handed me his phone. Full footage from all angles, watch. I watched my mother on the small screen. The hallway camera captured her walking in with the large black bag at 2:07 p.m., walking out at 5:12 p.m. with nothing. 3 hours, Marcus said. She told you 30 minutes. The bag? That's where it gets interesting. He pulled out a photo, charred plastic and wire fragments. Fire investigators found this near the outlet. Digital timer, the kind you plug appliances into. My stomach dropped. We traced the serial number to a batch sold at Henderson's Hardware, 3 miles from your parents' house. Another photo appeared on his screen, grainy security footage from a store checkout counter. 8 days before your fire, cash purchase. The woman in the footage had brown hair, familiar posture, a purse I recognized. Is that? We'll need official identification. But yeah. Marcus met my eyes. That's her. I looked back at my parents' house. Through the living room window, I could see shapes moving. My family, probably still discussing how sad it was that Evelyn had lost her mind. My phone buzzed. Diana. The witness identification came through, she said without preamble. Photo lineup, he picked Patricia, no hesitation, said he remembered her perfume. Channel number 5, said his mother used to wear it. I almost smiled, my mother's one consistent vanity. Marcus? I turned to him. How long until you can make an arrest? I submitted the warrant application 2 days ago, right after the witness ID came through. Judge Morrison signed it this morning. He checked his watch. I've got 2 officers meeting me here in 30 minutes. He studied my face. What are you planning? I'm going back inside. Evelyn. I won't confront her, but when you come through that door, I want my family to see the truth, all of it, at once. He hesitated, then nodded. 30 minutes. Then we end this. I sat in Marcus's car for another moment, gathering myself. The evidence was solid now. Video footage, witness identification, timer device remnants, a forged signature. My mother had been careful, but not careful enough. One more thing. I looked at Marcus. The messages. From her phone. Jason had explained it to me the day before. Cloud backups, text messages that users thought they'd deleted, still sitting on servers accessible with a proper subpoena. The legal request went through this morning, Marcus confirmed. Patricia's carrier is cooperating. We should have her message history within 48 hours. But I already knew what we'd find. She hadn't done this alone. Richard knew. Maybe helped. And somewhere in those deleted texts was proof. Go. Marcus checked his watch. I'll be there at 2:45. Just stay calm. Let the evidence speak. I nodded and opened the car door, then paused. Marcus? Why are you helping me so much? This is more than just standard investigation. He was quiet for a moment. My sister, 15 years ago. Abusive ex-husband burned down her house while she was at work. Insurance company tried to deny her claim, said it was suspicious. His jaw tightened. She spent 3 years fighting to prove she didn't do it herself. Nearly destroyed her. Did she win? Eventually, but it cost her everything. He met my eyes. When I saw your case, mother listed as beneficiary without consent, fire with no accidental cause, I knew. Someone was trying to do to you what they tried to do to her. I understood then. This wasn't just a job for him. Thank you, I said. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when she's in cuffs. I walked back toward my parents' house. 25 minutes. Then everything would change. The living room went silent when I walked back in. Patricia was still at the center of the room, tissue in hand, playing the wounded mother. But something flickered in her eyes when she saw my face. I wasn't crying, wasn't shaking, wasn't behaving like someone on the verge of a breakdown. Evelyn, honey, she recovered quickly. Are you feeling better? Do you need water? Actually, Mom, I have a question. The room tensed. 15 pairs of eyes fixed on me. When you visited my apartment last month, I kept my voice calm, conversational. Why did you stay for 3 hours? You told me it was 30 minutes. Patricia blinked. What? I don't remember exactly how long. The building has cameras, Mom. I pulled out my phone. I have the footage. Her face changed. Just for a second, a flicker of something cold beneath the maternal mask. Richard straightened. Evelyn, that's enough. You're embarrassing yourself. And the bag you brought? I continued, ignoring him. The large black one? Where did it go? Because you walked in with it. But you walked out empty-handed. I don't know what you're talking about. The fire investigators do. The room was utterly still now. Aunt Margaret's mouth hung open. Cousin Brian had set down his drink. Even Richard had stopped pretending to check his phone. Evelyn, Patricia's voice had lost its honey, pure steel now. I don't know what lies these investigators have been feeding you, but... Her phone rang. Richard's phone rang at the same moment. They looked at each other. Something passed between them. Fear, I realized. Real fear. Richard glanced at his screen. His face went white. Patricia. His voice cracked. It's the police. The doorbell rang. Uncle Thomas was closest to the door. He opened it without thinking, still processing what was happening. Marcus Webb stepped inside, badge visible on his belt. 2 uniformed officers flanked him. Patricia Carter? My mother didn't move. For the first time in my life, I saw her completely still, frozen, like an animal caught in headlights. I'm fire investigator Marcus Webb. He crossed the room in 4 steps. You're under arrest for arson in the 2nd degree and insurance fraud. This is ridiculous, Patricia finally found her voice. It came out shrill, nothing like her usual composure. Evelyn set me up. She's been planning this. She's sick. Ma'am, you have the right to remain silent. Marcus took her arm, not roughly, but firmly. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Don't believe her. Patricia twisted toward the family, mascara starting to run. She's unstable. She's been making things up since the fire. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be provided for you. The handcuffs clicked into place. The sound echoed in the silent room. Richard tried to step toward his wife, but the 2nd officer blocked him. Mr. Carter, we have questions for you as well. Please come with us. I wasn't... Richard's face crumpled. It was her idea. All of it. Richard? Patricia's scream was raw. Shut up! But it was too late. The family had heard. Aunt Margaret sank into a chair, hand over her mouth. Cousin Brian looked like he might be sick. Uncle Thomas just stood there, shaking his head slowly. I watched them lead my mother out the door. She didn't look back at me. She didn't have to. We both knew how this ended. For a long moment after the police cars pulled away, no one spoke. The living room felt different now, smaller. The carefully arranged furniture, the family photos on the mantel, the fresh flowers Patricia had set out, all of it looked like a stage set after the play had ended. Aunt Margaret was the first to move. She rose from her chair and walked toward me, tears streaming down her face. Evelyn, her voice broke. I'm so sorry. I should have listened to you. I should have... You didn't know. I should have asked. She took my hands in hers. You're my niece, and I believed her. I always believed her. Cousin Brian approached next. I can't believe that she would... He couldn't finish the sentence. She did. I said it simply. No anger, just fact. One by one they came to me. Uncle Thomas, Michelle, the others. Apologies. Shock. Disbelief. Some couldn't look me in the eye. Some couldn't stop looking, as if seeing me for the first time. Whatever you need, Uncle Thomas said. His voice was gruff, but his eyes were wet. Legal fees, a place to stay, the family will help. The real family. I thought about that word, family. What it meant. What it should mean. Thank you, I said. But I need some time to figure out who my real family is. No one argued. I walked out the front door into the February sunlight. The cold air felt clean after the suffocating warmth inside. My phone buzzed. Diana. She's being processed now. Bail hearing tomorrow. Richard's talking. He's trying to make a deal. I looked up at the sky. Clear blue. Endless. Good, I said. Let him talk. 2 days later, I sat across from Diana in her office, a stack of documents between us. The case is solid, she said. Video evidence placing Patricia at the scene, witness identification on the forged signature, timer device remnants matching a purchase near their home, and now she slid a paper across the desk. Richard's statement. I read it. The words blurred together at first, then sharpened. Patricia came up with the plan after we fell behind on payments, the gambling debts. That was my fault. But she said this would fix everything, said Evelyn had good insurance, said no one would get hurt. No one would get hurt. I set the paper down. What's the damage? For Patricia? Arson in the second degree. That's a Class B felony. Plus insurance fraud, forgery, conspiracy. She's looking at 8 to 12 years. With a plea deal, probably 6. And Richard? Conspiracy charges. He knew about the plan, helped cover it up. 2 years probation, mandatory gambling addiction treatment. Diana paused. He's agreed to testify against her. I nodded slowly. The insurance payout? Already being redirected. You're the rightful beneficiary. Always were. The company's cooperating fully. $150,000 minus legal fees should be in your account within 60 days. I thought about that money, what it represented. Everything I'd lost, converted to a number. I want a restraining order, I said, against both of them. That can be arranged. And I want this kept quiet, no media circus. Diana nodded. The court can seal certain records, especially given the family nature of the case. I stood and looked out her window at the city below. People walking, living their lives, unaware. Thank you, Diana. You did the hard part, she said. I just handled the paperwork. Quick check-in, everyone. If you've ever had to cut ties with family members for your own sanity, type, I had to, in the comments. Because I know I'm not alone in this. And if this story is hitting different for you tonight, share it with someone who needs to hear that setting boundaries isn't betrayal. It's survival. Okay, let me tell you what happened after. News travels fast in small communities. Within 2 weeks, everyone knew. The church my mother had attended for 30 years, the book club she'd hosted, the neighbors who'd admired her garden, all of them, whispering behind closed doors. Aunt Margaret kept me updated whether I wanted to hear it or not. The pastor asked her not to come back, she told me over coffee, said it was too disruptive for the congregation. Can you imagine? Patricia, who organized the Christmas bazaar for a decade. I could imagine. I could imagine it very well. Richard lost his job, she continued. The store owner didn't want the publicity, and someone spray-painted their garage door, had to repaint it twice. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel pity either, just a hollow kind of nothing. She's been calling everyone, Margaret said, trying to explain, saying it was a misunderstanding, that the evidence was planted, that you manipulated the investigators. She shook her head. Nobody's answering anymore. Good. Margaret reached across the table and took my hand. She's my sister. I grew up with her. And what she did to you, her voice caught. That's not family. That's not anything I recognize. I squeezed her hand. It's not your fault. I know, but I still feel it. We sat in silence for a moment. Outside the coffee shop window, life went on. Cars passed, people laughed, the world kept spinning. The gambling, I finally said. How bad was it? Richard's gambling? Margaret's face darkened. Bad. 180,000, maybe more, to people you don't want to owe money to. That explained the desperation, not that it excused anything. She thought she could fix it by burning my life down. She thought wrong. Yes, she did. The court date came on a gray Thursday in April. I sat in the back row of the courtroom, watching my mother in her orange jumpsuit, her wrists cuffed in front of her. Her hair had grown out, gray showing at the roots now, no salon appointments in county jail. She looked smaller than I remembered, older. She didn't turn around to see if I was there. Maybe she knew. Maybe she didn't want to know. The judge read the charges: arson in the second degree, insurance fraud, forgery, conspiracy to commit fraud. Each word landed like a stone. Patricia's lawyer, public defender, since Richard couldn't afford anyone else, had negotiated a plea deal. Guilty on all counts, in exchange for a reduced sentence recommendation. Patricia Carter, the judge said, You are hereby sentenced to 6 years in state prison with eligibility for parole after 4 years. 6 years. My mother would be 62 when she got out, if she got out early. I watched her shoulders shake, crying maybe, or just the weight of it finally hitting her. Richard's hearing was separate. Because he'd cooperated fully and testified against Patricia, the DA offered a deal. 18 months in county jail, suspended to 2 years probation, contingent on 200 hours of community service and completion of a gambling addiction program. The judge made it crystal clear. 1 violation, and he'd serve every day of that 18 months. His name on a public record, forever. After the sentencing, Diana met me in the hallway. "The insurance money cleared yesterday," she said. $142,000 after legal fees. It's in your account. I nodded. The number felt abstract, meaningless. "The restraining order was approved," she continued. "Neither of them can contact you, directly or through third parties, for the next 10 years. Thank you." She studied my face. "How do you feel?" I thought about it, really thought. "Empty," I said finally. "But free." She nodded like that made sense. It did. I started therapy 3 weeks after the trial. Dr. Okonkwo had kind eyes and a habit of asking questions I didn't want to answer, which meant she was exactly what I needed. "Do you forgive them?" she asked during our 4th session. I stared at the ceiling of her office, considering. "Forgiveness isn't my job right now," I said finally. "Healing is." She smiled. "That's a healthy perspective." "Is it?" "You're not forcing yourself into an emotion you don't feel. That's growth." Growth. Such a small word for such a massive shift. I moved into a new apartment at the end of April, smaller than my old one, a studio in a quieter neighborhood, but it had good locks, a security system I chose myself, and no memories. Jason helped me move in. Aunt Margaret sent flowers. Uncle Thomas dropped off a casserole, stood awkwardly in my tiny kitchen and said, "Call if you need anything." I bought a new guitar. Not the same brand as the one my late stepfather, my first stepfather, had given me. Nothing could replace that. But when I played it, I could almost hear him again. His voice, teaching me chords, his laugh when I messed up. Some things can't be recovered, but you can build new ones. The nightmares faded over time, the smoke and fire, my mother's face, the sound of Richard's cold voice. They visited less and less. Some nights I slept straight through till morning. Family, I decided, isn't about blood. It's about choice, about who shows up, who protects you, who believes you when the world says you're crazy. My biological mother tried to destroy me. My chosen family helped me survive. That was enough. That was everything. The letter arrived 2 months after the sentencing. I recognized the return address, State Women's Correctional Facility. My mother's handwriting on the envelope, smaller and neater than I remembered, as if she'd taken extra care. I almost threw it away unopened, but something made me stop. I sat at my kitchen table and read it. "Dear Evelyn, I've had a lot of time to think in here, about what I did, about what I lost. You have to understand, I was desperate. Your father's debts were crushing us, and I thought, I'm not making excuses. What I did was wrong. But you're still my daughter. You're still my baby. Please come visit me. Please let me explain. I'm still your mother. Love, Mom." I read it twice, 3 times. Then I got a piece of paper and wrote back, not to send, just for myself. "Patricia, you were my mother. But the woman who raised me would never have tried to kill me for money. I don't know who you are, and I don't need to find out. Don't write again." I folded the letter carefully, put it in my desk drawer. Maybe someday I'd send it. Maybe not. Then I blocked the prison's incoming mail through my post office. Professional, clean, final. Jason came over that evening for dinner. He noticed the envelope in my trash. "From her?" "Yeah. You okay?" I thought about the question, really considered it. "Better than okay," I said. "I'm free." He smiled. "You want help making dinner?" "Please." We cooked together in my tiny kitchen, pasta with vegetables, nothing fancy. Music playing softly from my new speaker, my new guitar leaning against the wall. It wasn't the life I'd planned. It was better. I'm sitting in my apartment now, looking out the window at the city lights. 6 months since the fire. 4 months since the trial. A lifetime since I stopped believing that family meant safety. Sometimes I think about what I lost. The photos that can't be reprinted. The guitar that sang with my stepfather's voice. The naive belief that my mother loved me more than money. Those things are gone. But here's what I found. Strength I didn't know I had. Friends who became family. The ability to trust my own instincts, even when everyone around me said I was wrong. Fire destroys. Everyone knows that. But what they don't tell you is that fire also reveals. It burns away the surface, the pretenses, the lies, the carefully constructed images, and shows you what's underneath. My mother's love was conditional. It always had been. The fire just finally showed me the price tag. If you're watching this, if you're in a family that makes you feel crazy for telling the truth, you're not crazy. You're awake, and being awake is terrifying at first, but it's also the beginning of freedom. I'm Evelyn Carter. I'm 29 years old, and my mother tried to burn down my apartment for insurance money. She failed. Not because I was smarter, not because I was lucky, but because I finally stopped protecting people who would never protect me. That's the hardest lesson, and the most important one. You're allowed to save yourself, even from family. Especially from family. The fire took everything I owned, but it couldn't take who I am. And in the end, that's all that matters. Before I go, a few things this experience taught me. Trust is earned, not assumed, even with family. Your gut feeling exists for a reason. When something feels wrong, it probably is. And setting boundaries isn't abandoning family. It's protecting yourself from people who already abandoned you first. Thank you for staying until the end. If this story helped you feel less alone tonight, drop a heart in the comments. If you know someone who needs to hear this, please share it with them. There are more stories like this one linked in the description. Check them out if you want. I'm Evelyn, and I'm still standing. And if you're going through something similar, you will too. Like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.